Dana Nucitelli is a research coordinator for Citizens Climate Lobby, as well as a journalist for Yale Climate Connections. He joins us now. Good to see you. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, so the issue which Prince William raises about spending priorities, it's been around since John F. Kennedy announced a race to the moon. Back then, though, the reasons for spending billions of dollars was closely tied to national security, the Cold War with the Soviet Union. This time, the billions of dollars are being spent, so a fortunate few can have an epiphany like William Shatner. Here he is. Listen to Captain Kirk.
Everybody in the world needs to have the philosophical understanding of what we're doing to Earth, and and you hear this so often, the necessity of cleaning our Earth and stopping right now the apocalypse that's coming our way.
We don't need 7 billion people to take a joyride into space so everyone becomes aware the planet is fragile and in trouble. It just seems like a luxury.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, it's not like resources that would be going towards tackling climate change are going towards space tourism. So, I mean, I wouldn't frame it as an either-or situation, but it's certainly true that climate change is a more pressing priority.
But couldn't those, I guess the bigger picture here is that, there is a way that those resources, the huge amount of money which is being spent on the luxuries for just a few, in a time of emergency, should be redirected.
Yeah, and you can do that with policy. For example, doing increased taxes on the wealthy so that their resources aren't going so much towards things like space tourism and can be directed more usefully towards policies like those that will tackle climate change.
I want you to listen to Jeff Bezos back in July. Again, he's making the argument for why these 10-minute space rides are so vital to the future.
We have to do both. And what our job at Blue Origin is to do, and what this space tourism mission is about, is having a mission where we can practice so much that we get really good at operational space travel, more like a commercial airliner and less like what you think of as traditional space travel. If we can do that, then we'll be building a road to space for the next generations to do amazing things there. And those amazing things will solve problems here on Earth.
That may be true one day, sometime in the future, yes. But it just seems to be a very tenuous connection, if you like, between these joyrides into space and what will be a tangible benefit anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly going to be very few people in the near term who are going to be able to afford these space flights, whereas everybody on Earth would benefit from investments to tackle climate change right now.
And when we had the space race, though, back in the 60s, there were some tangible things that came from that. Velcro, I remember, came out of the space race, and a whole bunch of other things, heart monitors, heart pacemakers, that kind of stuff. I mean, these are very real-world advantages that came from traveling into space. But again, in the face of this climate emergency that will ultimately affect every single living person for generations to come, it seems, again, this is sort of something which needs to be prioritized. And even the space race didn't kind of produce the benefits that were promised from the time.
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about addressing the climate crisis, I mean, it's an urgent thing that we have to do right now. And so it's fine to make investments into research and projects that will yield future advances, but really what we need is deployment of clean energy technologies immediately so that we can start to get greenhouse gas emissions decreasing and meet our Paris goals.
And beyond this sort of question of allocation of resources, there are some genuine questions about the carbon footprint of these space flights, also the pollution and the damage which is caused to the upper layers of the atmosphere. And you can add to that, just a couple of weeks ago, more than 2,000 employees at Bezos Blue Origins spoke about the bro culture and accused the company of dismissing environmental concerns and Bezos of acting counter to his public donations to environmental causes. Should there, at the very least, be some kind of regulation or environmental safety standards put in place for these flights?
Sure, and I mean, one thing my organization, Citizens Climate Lobby, advocates for is a price on carbon pollution. And so, in any case, whatever the source of pollution is, it shouldn't be free, because we want to at least make sure that the polluters are paying for the cost of the pollution that they're putting into the atmosphere, whether that be space travel or just burning fossil fuels in power plants. So that's one good way to do it, is to enact these kinds of policies that will implement a price to discourage or at least make polluters pay the cost of this pollution.
One of the reasons that William Shatner was chosen for the space flight, Jeff Bezos apparently is a bit of a Trekkie. He's a fan. He made an appearance as an alien in one of the more recent Star Trek movies, maybe the most recent, I'm not too sure. When our kids and grandkids look back, what will they think when they learn we wasted resources and squandered their future because a few billionaires wanted to pal around with their childhood heroes?
I mean, I think our future kids in the future are definitely going to wonder why we didn't do more to address the climate crisis, given that the less we do now, the worse the future extreme weather impacts like hurricanes, floods, droughts, wildfires, and heat waves are going to be. And so I think regardless of how much action we take, they're going to wonder why we didn't take more action. And so really, as much as we can do now in terms of implementing climate policies, we need to do.
Okay, Dana, we'll leave it there. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate it.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me.